So it looks like it does work, and I can talk like this, and the speech recognizer will be able to pick it up, speech to text. So I'm going to try and talk about my conclusion, because I think I need to talk about it a bit before I get the ideas right. I've made a list of the chapters that I have in the book. So we've got stream, swamp, car, pirate ship, escape, bet, commit, sum, and bad news. And the basis of this idea is the organizing principle for the whole book is a quote from a chap called Alan Kay, and the idea is point of view is worth 80 IQ points. So this holds out the idea that if you can look at things in the right way, then you can be a genius about them. You can be much, much cleverer about how you look at things if you look at things in the right way. But there's also the possibility around that if you look at things in the wrong way, then you can be really dumb about them. You can make a mess, a complete mess, and lots of projects fail. So what you might say about lots of those projects is maybe one of the reasons they might have failed is because people aren't looking at them in the right way. And what I realise is that in this list, most of the things, the ones that I start off with are they're positive, useful ways of looking at projects. So looking at projects in terms of value streams, looking at projects in terms of swamps, looking at projects in terms of cars, the pirate ship, escape, and bet. These are useful ways of looking at projects. And then I have a few just towards the end that are pointing out less helpful ways of looking at projects. Commit, all, and I think what I'm starting to realise is that all of these ways of looking have a kind of flip side. So and with some of these I've looked at one side, I've looked at the head side, and with others I've looked at the tail side. So with some of these things I've looked at the positive, make you smarter side, and with others I've looked at the kind of negative, make you dumber side first, but they all have a flip side. So for example, chapter stream, the flip side, the kind of make you dumber side, is to assume that developing a new piece of project is like building an existing design for a washing machine or a car. It isn't. Those are the two sides. The useful way of looking at it is by realizing that you're building a new value stream and you have to develop it, and there are going to be problems with it. The same with swamp. So the unuseful way of looking at the swamp is to imagine that it's unproblematic. This is a word that's going to come up a lot, I think. That where you're developing this is a space it's a greenfield site. Nobody else owns it. Nobody else lives there. Nobody else cares what goes on there. And that's just not true. Car. So I suppose the flip side to this is the idea that you don't need to pay attention. You don't need to control a project. You just need to at some point lay down a list of things that need doing, and they will get done. You don't need to look out of the windscreen. You don't need transparency about what's going on. You can just get on with it. The pirate ship is a bit of a different one, but I suppose this is the idea that is it two different things? It's one is the idea that there won't be any problems, there won't be any serious problems with the project, which is connected to the car. And the other one is that if there are any serious problems with the project, people will point them out and they'll get dealt with. And neither of those things are true. Escape. So this is the idea, I suppose, which is again, it's strongly connected to the dumb side and the smart side. Let's call it that. There's a dumb side of the coin and a smart side of the coin. The dumb side of the coin is that we can write our software entirely in private, not trying to push it out into the world, and when we do push it out into the world, it'll just be the right thing and it'll be successful. The smart side is to realize that we need to push things as far as we can, as soon as we can, so that we can find out what problems there are with them, but also so we can discover new value. And I'm kind of warming to this idea now of the dumb side and the smart side. So when it comes to bets, so the smart side here is to realize that projects are bets, but also beyond that kind of a lot of people are going to pretend they're not. So you're going to have the whole thing of the hiding hand of covering up the risks that are inherent and apparent on projects, and you're also going to have the whole kind of thing of project management theatre, the idea that you can, if you only follow the right project management method, everything is going to be perfect. But the smart side also realizes that if we can do some of the things that we talked about in chapter Escape, if we can actually find out what's really going on, what users really want, what the problems are, we can massively de-risk a project. The dumb side is to think that projects aren't bets. They're definitely going to be successful, and any thought that they're not going to be successful is negative thinking. And of course, that is just really the equivalent of closing your eyes and crossing your fingers. Commit. The smart side and the dumb side. So the smart side of committing is understanding that when commitments are made, they're made at a point that has very, very low amounts of information, and again, kind of being informed by some of the other chapters that we've looked at, that the reality will be something that is not necessarily in alignment with a commitment, but still might be able to generate value. And what's important is generating value, not aligning with kind of whatever maneuvered kind of commitment people were pushed into right at the beginning. Chapter Sum. This is like the most sophisticated one, I suppose. And there are two aspects to this. But the kind of smart side is to understand that doing something is better than insisting on everything, and the dumb side is insisting on everything. But also there's two different kind of sides to symmetry and asymmetry. The other is kind of like insisting that the software does exactly what it says on the tin, and not understanding that software like biscuits have their own rules in the real world, the ways that they actually work in the real world, that won't be described by the description that's on the tin. And finally, the smart and dumb side of Bad News in Chapter Boss. Chapter Boss basically understands that projects emit data. And again, this is something that we've been kind of thinking about in like other chapters. Projects generate data. Some of that data, just the fact that there is a lot of data and it needs to be processed and it needs to be made sense of, is embarrassing and is kind of treated as bad news and a problem. But of course, like anything that is done is going to generate data. It's going to generate kind of things that aren't expected, things that needed to be made sense of, things that need to be exploited. So this is the kind of like the smart side is to understand that like projects generate data. The dumb side is to just expect good news, is to just expect green, until the thing gets to a finish. So by just talking about this, I've come to this realization, and now I need to work it into more of a conclusion that kind of for every smart way of looking at a project, there's a dumb way, and this is the same. Actually, this is the final thing that I wanted to do. There's a smart way of looking at a book of suggestions of how to look at things in a smart way. And then there's a dumb way. The smart way is to use these as kind of ways of exploring the space of the project that you're in and thinking about things that you might do to improve what's going on there. The dumb way is treating this as a Bible or an oracle, or expecting me to know everything, or expecting me to be able to tell you everything about how to improve your projects.